Hey, good day, cat girl and edgy boy toy lovers. Today we're going to take a look at my newest addiction, a game called Tower of Fantasy. Let's start off with what this game actually is. Tower of Fantasy is an open world ARPG with some MMO elements speckled into its idyllic little world with its shared world feature. It's available for free on PC, Android and iOS, meaning that Tower of Fantasy is enjoyable at any moment of your day where you have a little downtime. Now, Tower of Fantasy is also available on Mac if you're using an emulator like BlueStacks. It is not supported natively. So about the game. The game takes place in the far future on a planet called Ada, where humanity established a colony to harvest a resource called Omnium from a nearby moon. 50 years prior to the current timeline, an explosion of Omnium devastated the human colonies and irradiated everything, leaving only some survivors thanks to a handy device called an Omnium suppressor, which has the ability to counteract the irradiation. Anyone or anything unlucky enough not to have that ability mutates and transforms into increasingly aggressive and powerful beings that put up quite a good fight. After this little bit of information, we cut to us being chased by some hellhounds while exploring some ruins, enabling us to choose if we want to be a female or a male character. This is where the game takes over into the most basic movement and attack demo, so you get familiar with how the game reacts, where the buttons are, and the general flow of movement. Afterwards, we get to create our own character. Tower Fantasy's customization is nothing short of awesome and every weeb's dream. You can go full girly to hardcore edge mode, recreate characters like Trunks from Dragon Ball Z, or even use popular presets made by other people. I've seen a couple of amazing custom characters around the world of Ada, and the only thing I have to complain here is the lack of customization in terms of clothing. Sure, you have some base outfits and outfits obtainable after reaching certain accomplishments, but the customization in terms of color is simply lacking a little bit. Just enabling us to customize 3 colors per outfit is a bit meh, especially after being able to change any and literally every detail about your main character, but hopefully the game expands on this system in the future. Now onto the meat of the game. The combat system is somewhat akin to a hack and slash where every encounter can be approached differently, with different weapons, styles and more, which makes engaging in said encounters a fun experience in and of itself. Fighting in Tower Fantasy is super responsive and lightning fast, if you want it to be. Evading choreographed attacks creates a little time bubble, powering up your weapons to unleash devastating blows against your opponents and drop some massive combos. The combat system, to sum it up, it's just really well thought out and very spectacular. Adding to that, when you follow the story a bit, you unlock something called Simulacra, which is a core part of the game. Simulacra are basically weapons that have the memories of their previous wielders embedded. In terms of AI, it's a futuristic game, so tech, jargon, blah blah blah. Meaning not only do you get a new weapon, but you also unlock incredible combos just by equipping those weapons. Every simulacrum you equip changes your appearance to said person, who have their own voice lines while playing and idle animations even. These simulacra are also bound to quests, where you find out more about them as a person, recover their memories, and fight for their skills. Tower Fantasy has a shared world feature. In terms of queue times, you got a bunch of activities to choose from to play together with others. Queue times are relatively short, depending on your server, and the activities are fun enough to repeat a couple of times. I'm joking! They also offer some harder to obtain resources for when you get further into upgrading. To back up your hacking and slashing, we dive straight into the Gacha system. Now, Tower of Fantasy's Gacha system is very forgiving and far from anything to the likes of, for example, Genshin Impact. Most, if not all, materials to open chests or orbs are free to farm for, you get them in abundance, and clearing any amount of story or exploring the environment rewards you with a ton of resources to click open that next orb. You quite literally get smothered with resources from everywhere at the start. While that is nice, the one thing I don't like is that these resources do not get explained pretty much at all. You can click on the resources and see what they do, see what stats they give and how to get them, but there's no real guide as to why you would care other than, upgrading your weapons or clicking open orbs. Now sadly, what a lot of people don't seem to cover is Tower of Fantasy's pity system, where every X rolls you are guaranteed to get a super rare roll. See, the normal approach of gacha systems is you get X amount of free rolls, and after that you either purchase premium currency or you farm your ass off. just for the slightest sliver of being able to get something rare. With Tower of Fantasy, that system gets a nice little twist. With every 10th roll, you are guaranteed a super rare or a super rare roll. Might want to change those names. I will call super rare purples and super rare golds from now on for sanity reasons. With every 18th roll, you are guaranteed a gold roll. Meaning, even if you get a gold on your 79th roll, you still get a gold on the 80th roll on the standard gold nucleus store. This system repeats itself in the major store as well. With the Gacha system covered, onto the story and performance. First off, you get to choose for Japanese or English voices and subtitles, which is always a nice touch in an anime game. However, the story itself, while recognizable, is a bit slow, maybe? Now don't get me wrong here, I enjoy the stories and the plethora of characters we get to meet, but the conversations and action items are separated to points where sometimes your main conversation ends, you take one step and you automatically continue. Why not just make it one big conversation instead of chopping it up? Now the same goes for the voice acting. The voice acting itself is really well done, both in the English and the Japanese version. Really well done. It's seriously enjoyable and has a massively bonding experience with the characters. But the performance of the game oftentimes cuts off the voices, while the character is still speaking. Meaning you're watching a character move their lips, but the voice has already passed. This counts for both the skippable dialogue as also for the cutscenes, which really sucks, because the cutscenes are done really well. Now to the part of some things I find a little disturbing and really hope the devs improve upon. First off, server locked characters. Did you start playing on any random server, got through a lot of the story and notice your friends are somewhere else? Tough luck, because you can't port your character to another server and you'll have to start all over. Honestly, with a shared world kind of game, MMO style-ish, I expected to at least be able to move my character even if it's against a small price. Unfortunately, at the current time we cannot. Secondly, character customization does not enable you to switch to a female character. In a game where your character is in the center of all things happening, you'd expect to be at least able to switch your character's gender around. Again, for a small price, that makes total sense, and I hope this gets added. Third point, the UI is super confusing. Unfortunately, the multiple layers of UI and their interwoven tabs confuse a lot of players at the beginning, which is a major turnoff. Stuff like switching gear, changing loadouts, could all be done so much easier, and with better keybinds. Fourth, and most importantly, rewards at the end of quests and the feeling of ending a quest are extremely underwhelming. While dungeons and multiplayer activities have a way better experience, the end of a main story quest feels very lackluster and the rewards can be quite minuscule, which weighs down the entire story parts behind it a little bit. Summed up, the game with its beautiful landscape, colorful characters, fast-paced and punchy combat, and of course playful art style is a definite grab with some minor quirks that hopefully get ironed out. Again, Tower of Fantasy is playable for free on PC, Android, iOS and on Mac with an emulator like BlueStacks. There's no real reason not to get it and just have some fun. You'll find a link to download it from the official website in the description. No, this was not sponsored. Thank you for watching. Later.